Welcome to another episode of Authors in Espresso. I'm your host, Nadia Gilkes, and today we have another festival flashback, this time with Verde Arzu, who is the author of Rainbow. And it's been 5 years since that festival, but I think her words ring true now more than ever. And today, when we're in a time when so many books are being pulled from the shelves and so many people are being censored, it's so important to highlight all the stories out there. And I was so excited to feature her story, Rainbow. She is a Black queer author who was launching her first book when she launched Rainbow, and she took us on a little journey to how she got this in print, told herself yes, put her story out there, and it resonated with so many people. So enjoy this festival flashback, and we'll work on checking back in with her, hopefully in the next few months, to do an updated interview. Here is Verde Arzu talking about her story, Rainbow. All right. So our next author is a Chicago native, but she has moved up to the big leagues of Sacramento, California, pushing Black women queer stories out of the shadows and into mainstream literature is Verde Arzu's goal and passion. She believes, just like the traditional love story, Black queer love must be widely written and read too. Verde Arzu graduated from Fisk University, a historically Black college and university located in Nashville, Tennessee. Verde's HBCU experiences play a pivotal role in the story she writes. A native Chicagoan, she currently resides in Northern California with her beautiful wife and two furry four-legged children, Bob and Marley. Verde finds motivation as an independent author from one of Toni Morrison's most notable quotes. If there's a story you really want to read and it hasn't been written, you must write it. You can find out more about Verde Arzu at www.verdearzu.com. Please help me welcome with a big round of applause, Miss Verde Arzu. Are
Hey.
you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for putting this on. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and supporting all these authors.
Yes, it's so important. People that love to read need to follow indie authors. It's not just about the big names, but as we all can see from just what we've heard so far, there are powerful stories from somebody that you may not have heard of before. We can't all be Stephen King or Toni Morrison, but our our powerful stories can still touch. So I'm so glad to see so many people here today. And you were one of the first people that I actually reached out to for this festival. So I'm glad that you were able to jump in. You just published your book also about, what, 5 or 6 months ago?
Yes, in December 2019.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What was your driving force to creating Rainbow?
So the driving force behind writing Rainbow was my desire to read and have more Black queer stories out there in the world. When I go into a bookstore, Rainbow is the kind of book that I would like to be on the shelf. When I was growing up, my early years in high school and my years in high school and my early years in college, Rainbow is the exact book that I needed to have on the shelf, and it wasn't there. And so that's the driving force behind Rainbow. And there needs to be more Black queer books mainstream, just like all the other genres, written by Black authors, and specifically Black women.
And so your stories that you display both here and what you put on your social media, are those characters coming from you, your friends, your life experiences? Where are you drawing your inspiration from?
Well, I'm in a writing class right now. I came across this quote that I thought was very powerful and resonated with me. And it says that all writers, to some degree, utilize material taken from their own lives and imagination and by other writers that have deeply influenced them at one time or another. And I just love that. I'm like, every time someone asks me, that's my answer right there. Because, of course, there are parts of me in this story, in the stories that I write. But the beautiful thing about writing is that I get to create these worlds, that I get to master and be a part of and develop these characters and just use my imagination. It's one of the beautiful things about writing.
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, there is no limits, or you are your only limit when you're a writer because you can think of anything, just like Jerry Hagen's sci-fi book, your stories. I mean, it's just limitless. So, who do you hope to appeal to with your story, or who's your ideal reader?
Mm. Well, I hope to appeal to the person or the people out there who are struggling to love themselves, to love the skin that they're in, to the people out there who are being told that they're not good enough, that they're not perfect, or that they're just searching to just be comfortable with who they are. Also, I'm hoping to appeal to people who think that because there are more representation of LGBTQIA plus people, you see a little bit more that it's all good in 2020 and it's not. We need more allies and we need more representation to the point where it's not we're not talking about representation anymore because it is what it is, right? So until we get to that point, we're continuing to be seen, respected, loved, heard.
Mhm. And can you tell us a little bit about Rainbow itself?
So I'm proud to share two quotes from two recent reviews about Rainbow, not just because they are complimentary, but also because they sum up the story, I think, quite nicely. And the first one is it says that Rainbow tells the individual story of a woman struggling to find her place in a hostile world that also speaks to the experience of Blackness and queerness, never forgoing one for the other. And that was a quote from the Indie Reader, a review that was put out for Rainbow. And the other one was it's an engaging work about the freedom that comes with self acceptance. And that was one quote from Kirkus Review. And Rainbow just tells the story of Taylor. She's the main character. And really, she's going through this process of finding herself and just learning to love and accept herself for who she is. And I know that we can all relate to that at some point or another in our lives, especially when we are younger.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your publishing journey because you are in the LGBTQ authors that we don't see a lot of, and you mentioned that we need more representation. Did you have any issues, or did you feel like there were more obstacles because you were putting yourself in the category, or what was your journey like?
Well, I personally decided that I wanted to own the rights to my stories. I didn't want what people say is, put yourself out there and get rejected, right? Get rejected, get rejected, get rejected. And I said, no, I don't want to be rejected. I think these stories are great and I'm going to publish them myself. And so I wouldn't say that I came up against a lot of obstacles because I did it my way. I did it on my own. There
You
was no
sound
one.
like twins.
No, the only person who could tell me no was me.
Right.
The only thing was that it was a journey to try to figure out. It took some time finding out where could I place my book. Like, where are these particular bookstores that are welcoming to artists like myself? So that took some time, right? That's the biggest part. And then I did work with a book developer and just being more, I guess I was so novice in it that when I did send my book out to for advanced reader copies of the book, I wish I was in more control of who I gave the book to
Mm,
so that it was more toward my target audience.
okay. And someone coming in your shoes or looking at you for inspiration, what would you tell any aspiring authors that are getting ready to release or starting to write their story and walk their journey?
I would say don't give up, never quit, write that story, write that book. Even if you take a break, you take some time off, take years off, you know, don't don't let your dream die. No matter how long it takes you, just keep going because oftentimes people will tell you things that are not positive, that don't feed into your dream and in your journey. And, you want to get away from those people. And you want to really be around people who uplift you, who encourage you, and who support your dream. Because when we talk about dream, what we're talking about is something that is in like out of this world, right? Like it's something that, oh, should you be doing that? Is that something that's going to make you money? Why are you putting your time and energy into that? Right. So you have to have the right people around
Mhm.
you. And don't worry about how many people's going to read your book. Somebody's going to read it. Right.
Absolutely.
You're the only person reading it.
Someone's going to read it and somebody's going to be touched by it. So people have to get their stories out. And like you said, there's no reason to go to Penguin and Random House and get all these rejection letters. You can walk the path and get yourself out there. So I love that you did that, that you promote that, and that you are an inspiration for others coming behind you, because it's so important. We all have a story and they're worthy to be heard. So
Absolutely. And
so
Nipsey Hussle, Jay-Z, they motivate me, they inspire me and encourage me. Although they're up there, they're telling the truth about being independent as a Black person and owning the rights to your work as an artist.
yeah, and even long before that, Prince has been screaming about owning your own work and owning your masters and being in control of your art. That's so important for anyone, no matter what your art form is. So in your breakout room, you're doing spoken word or you're reading from your book?
Yes, I'm going to read from my book and then I'm going to answer some questions.
Perfect. So if you want to hear more about Rainbow, you can go into Verde Arzu's room. And we're at that point now. I can't believe session one is almost over. We are at the point where we are starting to do our breakout room. So thank you so much, Verde, for your story, for your book. I have her copy here also. This is also going in the prizes pile. We'll have 2 book bundles during the games and prizes session. So you might be the lucky winner of that. Or you can look in the chat for the link to her book on Amazon if you want to purchase it right now. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Authors and Espresso. This has been another festival flashback. Please follow us on Facebook, Authors and Espresso, and be sure to check in every Tuesday where we air new episodes. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful